Well, he's entirely missed my glowing introduction to him, but a very good morning to Sir Bob Jones. Bob, how are you?
Not so bad, but your producer asked me that, and I said, well, give me a couple of hours and I'll explain how I am. He didn't bother listening.
Bob, geez, look, you know that normally in Wellington around mid-November, all the public servants work even less. The politicians are all going home to, I don't know, spread largesse around their elections, and we have what's called silly season, and there's no news. And it used to be everyone went and enjoyed a long lunch on the taxpayer's dime. That hasn't happened this year. There is news all over the place. And last week we saw a protest, I'll be honest, Bob, the likes of which I had not seen before, and many hot takes and pearl clutching about what it all means. You've seen a few protests. You've seen a bit of politics in your time.
That was a sort of a junior version of Jacinda-mania insanity. It was a communal. A lot of them, I think, just joined for the fun of it. It was suddenly fashionable with lightweights and halfwits. I would think that, it's a supposition, obviously. I would think of however number there was. We started with 10,000, we got up to 50,000. But regardless, I would wager very, very heavily that 99% of them couldn't explain what it was about.
And I must say, our on-the-spot reporting, Ben and I went down there, absolutely backed that up. Absolutely. They all said, I'm here because David Seymour's a fascist and this bill changes the treaty. It doesn't. And do you know it's never going to become law?
Exactly. This is the point, the hypocrisy, and the show ponyism in that. There were a number of elements in that. Maori wonderfulness sort of thing. Maoris are wonderful. If some Maoris are upset, therefore we've got to join. But I think it was just, are you going? Oh, yeah, we're going, this sort of thing. It was an embarrassment, actually, to see such display of stupidity on the line. Protesting something that's not going to happen. It's interesting, however, because Heather Roy wrote a piece, and she's rather clinical, Heather, but she pointed out that the Curia polling of New Zealand voters, when that happened, showed 46% support for the bill, albeit it's not going ahead. The bill's going ahead, but the act won't. 25% opposition, 29% said they were unsure. Broken down by party, 58% of national voters are in support, 54% of ACT, 65% of New Zealand First, and look at this, 15% of Te Power Maori. Labour and Green voters were roughly divided, one-third in support, one-third in opposition, and a third didn't know. So, these were just show ponies, an awful lot of children and that. We gave it far too much attention. They should have been hosed down. But it's a behavioural thing, and I can draw it. Look, I'll tell you something. If you watch a rugby match, and I've only ever watched an All Black match now with a bloody open book in my hand, because it's so tedious and, standing around, I do enjoy looking at the crowd shots. Now, particularly in New Zealand, they tend to be older people. They're all crushed in together. They're all looking rather morose. But why are they there? Because obviously it is so much better to watch on TV. All sport is, because it's so intimate, the replays and so on and so on. They're there because the others are there. It's an outing. It's a social outing to be with people, and that communalism of it, which is, I understand that. But God Almighty, I'm shocked that when I read what they pay to do that, they must have very. I mean, I enjoy my own company. I don't need to.
Did you enjoy TJ Perenara's additions to the Haka in the French game?
No, but he's always been a show pony, and it's just that you ignore these things. The point is, what are they asking here? Well, I'll tell you another thing about treaties. I would like them to forget the Waitangi Treaty altogether. I remember writing an article once about the treaty of, and I can't remember what it was. It was somewhere in Belgium, I think, modern-day Belgium. This was after the Spanish Armada was defeated. Spain and Britain, or it would have been England then, Spain and England entered into a treaty over Gibraltar. England wanted an outpost there. As you know, they're still carrying on about it. The Spanish still periodically trying to raise it, trying to bloody negotiate the recovery of it, simply for geographic reasons. In any event, the critical thing was this. The Spaniards agreed that no Jew or Moor, as they called an Arab then, was ever allowed to live on the island. Now you go forward, when it became a big issue again, where Spain made a serious concerted effort to resurrect negotiations about 20 years ago. And who is leading the negotiations? The governor of
Gibraltar.
oh God, what am I talking about? The governor of it's not an island, of course, of Gibraltar, who happened to be an Arab Jew, not an Arab, a Moroccan Jew. But the Brits were smart enough not to raise that. Those were the values 500 years ago. They're totally redundant values now. This living in the past, if Marriedom wants to keep romanticising and living in the past, they'll stay in the bloody past, which is where they largely are now. And we're going to see Asians coming in here and we are seeing that too, against all sorts of handicaps, taking over everything and leaving them behind while they're doing bloody hakas all day.
All right, Bob, I asked the Prime Minister a couple of weeks back, I said, is there anything about the Treaty Principles Bill that you like? And given it's got three parts, one is we honour the treaty, two is everyone's equal, and three is the government has a right to government. Luxon turned around and said, no, nothing about it I like. I was surprised we didn't see him out on the Hīkoi a couple of Tuesdays ago. Do you think Luxon needs to, and as you said, 58% of National Party voters, I think it was, support the Treaty Principles Bill. Does he need to stop being, I don't know, so woke or liberal?
I wouldn't call him woke, actually, on what I might judge on him now. I watch Parliament now and again, particularly Question Time, and he strikes me as very sharp, actually. I mean, I always thought it was a bit of a joke. I mean, he ran a very bad airline, and in my view, I'd buy my own jet. I couldn't bear it. I'd bloody walk rather than fly.
You are not someone I'm going to take airline advice off, Bob, because you don't need them. You got your own plane, mate.
Yeah, well, and you know, I would drive. If I had to go to walk, and I'd drive rather than put up with the Air New Zealand and nonsense.
So you don't think Luxon misread the mood of his room on the Treaty Principles Bill?
I read these reminders that he's only been PM and indeed an MP virtually for a year. He's finding his way. I think he comes across to me as quite a strong-willed chap, actually. I think he possibly misinterpreted by that. He was saying that we're not going ahead with it, full stop, so I'm not going to talk about it. Nothing I like about it, your response. It's a silly response, but he may have also been a pragmatist and saying, well, they're going to make a fuss about this anyway. It's childish. It should be forgotten. The treaty should be forgotten. Like I said, it's redundant.
You mentioned driving there, Bob. I do want to cover off one, cultural, social issue that I understand you weren't aware of until I asked someone you work with to raise it with you. Jaguar are in the process of rebranding. And they're rebranding to the point where they're getting rid of the Jaguar emblem off all their marketing. And they seem to be advertising with people who are gender confused, wear primary colours, and they're running ads that don't have cars in them, Bob.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. Look, I'll tell you, I did used to drive Jags. I drove them for a long time, but that was a long time ago. I drive a BMW now. They're nice and comfortable, etc. But this is modern advertising. It bewilders me. If you watch TV, you watch something and some scenario is played out in an ad, and then what the hell is this about? And there's no connection at all with the service or product on offer. And I think I attribute that solely to the ad agency personnel being bored. They were caught being creative. It's being stupid. An advertisement should tell you stuff about the product or service. These things don't. It's just ludicrous. And as I say, I don't think they're bored. It's certainly not. It's like so-called art. I mean, there's a lot of nonsense there. Another creative field.
Yeah.
So I find it very weird, this sort of thing.
Bob, but when you did drive Jags, and I know you drove them for a very long time, and I'm not sure if they're listening at woke headquarters at Jaguar. What is it to you that a Jaguar embodies or embodied?